If you're weighing yourself along your weight loss journey, you're actually taking away that possibility of progress. You're actually sabotaging your progress. Are you ready to bring your dream body and health into life, but just can't seem to keep the motivation going? And is it finally time to address the self-sabotage and the unwanted eating behaviors such as binge eating, emotional eating, and nighttime eating that you know are getting in the way of your goals? Do you ever wonder what it would take for you to feel in control of your rituals so that you can stay consistent and see results? Welcome to this week's special Make Peace with Food Minisode on the Fall in Love with Fitness podcast, where you'll learn how to overcome unwanted eating behavior and other self-sabotaging habits by shifting your nervous system so that your body works with you instead of against you. I'm your host, Sherry Shaban, and with each episode, I am honored to be your coach and guide in the journey to make peace with food and find food and body freedom so that struggle with weight is a thing of the past. When you tune in every Thursday on the Fall in Love with Fitness podcast, you'll catch the latest conversation on unwanted eating behaviors and learn how to shift the nervous system, rewire the brain to new patterns, and end the food and body obsession so you finally feel relaxed and no longer confused around food. Now, before we begin, I want to quickly invite you to grab a free copy of my Food Freedom ebook that I have for you at makepeacewithfood.com. And if you find that this conversation resonates with you today, then I also want to invite you to join our free Make Peace with Food Facebook community at myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com, where you can connect with me and my team directly. The links are in the show notes. And of course, if you know somebody who you feel could benefit from these conversations and discussions, make sure to share this podcast with them too. All right, so we're just about to jump into it, but before we do that, I have a super quick announcement. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you're ready to take a time out and focus on just you for a whole week, then I want to personally invite you to join me for the Transformation in Paradise Empyrean Retreat in Costa Rica, May 24 to 31, 2025. This is going to be the most transformative week of your life at the breathtaking Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica. Now, this will be a small group experience with exclusive access at the Blue Osa Resort. Imagine waking to the sound of the Costa Rican rainforest musical every morning, starting your day with a yoga practice overlooking the Pacific Ocean, joined in with howler monkeys, daily walks on a private beach that goes on for miles, macaws flying overhead, spa treatment at a 5-star resort, and the best farm-to-table food ever right from the Blue Osa farm. This retreat is designed to reset your nervous system so you stop the patterns of self-sabotage and overwhelm. You reignite your motivation, you release any addictive habits, and open yourself to the health, relationships, and financial abundance you deserve. Intrigued? Curious? Let's book a call to find out if this retreat is the right fit for you. All you have to do is head on over to sherryshaban.com/retreats and you can book a time with me there. Plus, if you rate and review this podcast, giving me a 5-star rating on iTunes, and then send the screenshot to Sherry at sherryshaban.com so that I know who you are, you'll receive the voucher to join me as early bird discount and get $400 off of Empyrean. So remember, this group is small and the spots are limited. Let's book a call to see if it's right for you. All right, now let's get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about something that may actually blow your mind. And by the time I'm done explaining, I promise it's going to make a lot of sense. You're going to have some serious aha moments, and it's likely going to shatter a lot of what you already believe as the journey to weight loss. And this is a beautiful time of year to talk about this. And I have to admit, I've shared with you my story in the past. And in the past, when I used to really focus on food, when I was so locked into getting it right, and at that time, I owned a CrossFit gym. I had taken multiple courses in nutrition. I had tried about every single different diet out there. And because I was a super big science nerd, since every single one was backed by science, they were facts to me. A lot of these diets were talking about how certain food groups were completely off limits. Some diets, for example, were talking about how we weren't supposed to eat carbs and we're not supposed to eat grains, while other diets spoke about how we're not supposed to eat meat. And since everything was really backed by science and there was a lot of proof, I found myself completely confused. And what I had realized is that I was struggling with a binge eating behavior. And this is something that I recognize in so many people, especially if they've been on that weight loss journey for a long time, if they've tried all the diets out there, if they've always been focusing on their weight, on their size, doing all that body shaming. And me, Sherry, the science nerd who had degrees in osteopathy and exercise science and biochemistry, who should have known all the things, who should have known better, was also struggling with unwanted eating behavior because of the pattern that we build in our minds. And now, this today, hopefully, is going to be a very enlightening conversation. And the most important thing I want you to walk away with today is that it's not your fault. And I want you to think of the mind as a computer. And what we're actually doing by enforcing certain behaviors over and over again, especially if these behaviors have a lot of beliefs and a lot of emotions, then what we actually do is we build the software. And then the unconscious mind, which doesn't really think of what to do, it just repeats what it knows. Everything is habituated and installed in the subconscious mind. It just continues to repeat these things on repeat. And so that's why you start to notice that your behavior looks a lot like it did last year, looks a lot like it did the year before, and you notice that that is your pattern. And this is why this conversation is so timely. I remember when I was struggling with binge eating, I was afraid to go to social events. I remember having these really strict rules at times where I was really focused on my food needing to look a certain way, of course, depending on whatever diet I was following at that time. And if I was to go to a social event, I didn't want to be tempted. I didn't want to white knuckle it. I didn't want to have to force myself with all of this discipline to really avoid certain foods while I watched everyone else eat it. And so if I did find myself at this social event, of course, I would deny myself of these foods that in my mind I was desiring so deeply, because I had to make sure that I was following all the rules. And there was a lot of emotion, a lot of self-judgment, a lot of self-identity also really attached to how I was eating. If I avoided these foods, what I would actually find myself doing is later on in private, I would end up overindulging these foods. And I hear this also from a lot of clients that around certain people, they're very controlled. They make sure that they don't look like that person who's going to overeat. They may even be at a restaurant. They want to make sure that they order the salad. And so they're denying themselves of what they really want in the moment, only to find themselves overindulging and binge eating later. And again, this is not a sign of weakness. This is not a sign that you're not disciplined. This is not even because you don't know any better. It's really a sign that you have habituated this pattern. And during this time of year, especially the holidays, that's where this pattern becomes the most obvious and the most apparent. Now, follow me here, and I'm certain that you are resonating with this, because this is the time of year where suddenly things start to slow down. We have way more social events. We've got the work party, then we've got the friend party, then we've got all the family parties. And of course, if you are in a divorced couple, then that means there's even more family parties, and then there's more people to go and meet with. And before you know it, you're finding yourself in this 1 month having way more social gatherings than you normally would. And this, of course, all started back in November, because if you are celebrating Thanksgiving and maybe even celebrating Thanksgiving in two different locations, and then all of a sudden moving into the holiday seasons where now food is plentiful, desserts are plentiful, there's all kinds of cookies everywhere, the smell of gingerbread is everywhere, and you're finding yourself very nervous to go to a lot of these social functions. I know that I was. And this is also something I always hear from my clients, that it's always around the time of the holidays that all the work that they had been doing all year long suddenly takes the back seat. And all of a sudden, now there's temptations, and now there's this feeling of anxiety around food and just wanting to go along with others. And of course, because this is a pattern that the mind has learned, most likely in the past, you have experienced the holiday weight gain. You've experienced the holiday anxiety around food. You've maybe even experienced that holiday interrupt of all of the rituals that you were doing around your self-care. And then the record starts to play. And here's what I call a record. I've already shared this with you before on a previous discussion. Our record is this habituated statement and emotion and belief system that starts to play in our mind on repeat, that only appears once we are triggered in a certain way. So during this time of year, the usual record could be something like, well, New Year's is right around the corner. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to lose all this weight anyways. It's okay. I'm going to start super fresh on New Year's Day. I've got a big resolution. 2025 is going to be my year. And so since I'm not going to be able to eat all this sugar and all these cookies and all this cake and have seconds and have stuffing and have pie, I may as well just have it all now and just get it out of my system, because once January comes, it doesn't matter. All of this is gone and I'm going to clean it up. And that's the record that we play. And again, I want you to imagine that this is a software that you've downloaded in your mind. You've programmed your mind, you've programmed your body using your belief systems around food, around weight, around your body, around the size of your body, around the need to make a change in your health, with the holiday season, having a lot of foods around you, having a lot of social gathering around you, with this forced feeling of discipline and willpower that you have to summon during this time. And then, of course, the relief of knowing that January is just around the corner. There's time to set a New Year's resolution, and all you have to do is just get through the holidays, enjoy it fully, go ahead, one last big bang, and then all of a sudden in January, it's going to clean it up. That's a record. And it's almost as though your mind knows that during this time of year, look for the track and play it. And so why this is important is because this is the time of year where we can start to actually think about how is it that we're wanting to move into 2025? Because we've noticed that the more that we think about our weight, the more that we think about food, the more that we think about calories, the more that we think about our weight loss and our goals, the more we actually create the struggle, especially if there are emotions, very strong emotions involved. And that's one of the reasons why I always tell you that if you're weighing yourself along your weight loss journey, you're actually taking away that possibility of progress. You're actually sabotaging your progress. And I know that sounds backwards, because you're probably like, what are you talking about, Sherry? All the apps that I follow, anytime I start any meal plan, anytime I start a weight loss journey or a fitness journey, of course, I'm going to focus on my weight. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to release weight. So I'm going to take my initial weight, and to make sure that I'm going to stay on track, I'm going to keep weighing myself every single day to get my results. And there are even some challenges out there that tell you to weigh yourself every single day so that you can get your results. But here's the thing. Again, programming your mind, putting that record in your mind, comes with statements, beliefs, and very intense emotions. And so if you're constantly weighing yourself, you're going to notice that you have this pattern, because I had this pattern, and it's the pattern that I also see in my clients, and why when they start their journey with me, the first thing we agree on is to stop weighing yourself. If you stop weighing yourself, and you stop relying on that scale, first of all, to give you information, you create a massive pattern interrupt. And now what you can do is you can step into your body, you can connect more with your body and start to become more intuitive. And that's just one of the things that happens. But here's the other really important thing that happens. When we stop weighing ourselves to monitor our progress, then we interrupt the emotional attachment and the signaling that the brain has developed, the relationship in general with your weight and your emotions. And what we can actually do is, again, get into more of a steady and controlled way to be around food, to be around our weight, and to be around the goals that we are trying to create. So let me explain a little bit deeper so that you're resonating with this. Be honest with me. What happens when you step on the scale and you notice that you've released a few pounds? Yes, you get super excited. You're so happy. It's going to be a great day. I love my life. I love everyone around me. I'm doing so great. All right. Well, now that I'm doing so great, okay, I can have that cheesecake that I've been denying myself of. Or since I'm doing so great, I can reward myself with some food, especially the foods that I've been removing to help me release that weight. Right? That's what we do. So when we see that there's a weight loss on the scale, that is the action that we're taking. The belief is we're doing really, really great. So weight loss equals great, equals I have value, equals I'm important and I can love myself. And then the emotion is extreme joy. And the result of that is a reward. Because I'm doing so well, I get to reward myself. Now, let's also be honest here. What happens when we step on that scale and we notice that our weight went up? So our weight went up. Now we're really upset at ourselves. Now we feel like failures. We feel like we're such losers. Clearly, all the things we've been doing isn't working, even though that we've been meal prepping and really focusing on eating whole foods and drinking more water, and we've been exercising and we've been taking our daily walks. The fact that the scale has gone up a few pounds means that this isn't working. And you know what? This is never going to work. And then that record starts to play. You see, it doesn't work. It's just genetics. No matter how much you try, it's never going to work for you. This is like all the other times. It is impossible to release weight. And so what is the result? Well, the result is forget it. I'm going to give up because clearly this isn't working and it's not going to work for me. I may as well just go ahead and eat all the foods that I've been avoiding since it's not working. And so then what's that programmed into your mind looking like? Right, there is stepping on the scale, action, and then all of a sudden there's a belief because the scale went up. That means I'm not valuable. That means I can't love myself. That means I'm not worthy. That means I'm not deserving and I'm a failure. And clearly this is something that's just not going to work for me. So we build these belief systems and then we have the intense emotion of disappointment, frustration, shame, maybe even anger and worry. And that starts to download in the mind as a program. So anytime we're doing anything that's giving us these extreme emotions with a lot of beliefs, and there's an action that we take, especially an action that pursues. So the first action is we step on the scale, it gives us a belief, it gives us an emotion, then we take another action. And that other action is either to eat as a reward or to eat as a punishment or because we've just given up. And so that's how we program our mind to group all of these things together. And that's why your mind and your body and your brain will always think that weight loss is a struggle. Weight loss is difficult. Weight loss is something that either makes me feel like I'm valued and I can love myself, or weight loss is something that is going to take away my self-worth. It's going to always be this challenge. I'm never going to feel loved or accepted or seen unless I have released weight. And so if you notice that this is what you've been doing, I'm going to ask you now to take a moment as you step into 2025 and just consider for a moment, how would you like your 2025 to go? And if you're in this space right now, we're almost mid-December 2024, and you are likely thinking about how you want to move into maybe a more self-serving way in 2025. Maybe you want to focus on more self-care rituals. Maybe you're wanting to really make 2025 the year of optimal health. It's the year where you prioritize yourself. You prioritize your health. You finally get back that energy, that vitality. You finally release all the weight that your body has been holding on to all these years for protection. And if that is your goal for 2025, then awesome. That is the greatest gift you can possibly give yourself. And I want to congratulate you for that. That's amazing that you want to do that for yourself, because that's already a huge step. The fact that you say yes to you is already a really huge step. But now here's the big but. How do you want it to go? Do you want it to look like all the other previous years, where your commitment for 2025 is, I'm going to restrict, as of 2025, there's going to be no sugar, and I'm going to cut all the carbs, and I'm going to go on a serious meal plan, and I'm going to hire a nutritionist, and I'm going to do all these things, and I'm really going to get myself to stop eating all the things that I've been eating, and I'm really going to focus on weight loss? Is that going to be how you're going to move into 2025? Just the way maybe you've always moved into the new year? Just to notice that it lasts probably until that first hump is there, where a life event happens, or you miss a workout, or you're having a really rough week, or somebody gets ill, and then all of a sudden you fall off the wagon and you find yourself defaulting right back to where you started? Do you want it to look like that? Or do you want to try it another way? And maybe this other way looks like complete relaxation around food. Maybe it looks like changing your relationship with food so that there isn't a thought of overeating. There isn't a fear to be around food, that you can have that one cookie and just walk away like it doesn't mean anything more than that. Do you want to be that place where you are in more control around food? Do you want to be in that place where you feel at ease around food, where you can go to social events and it's really not a big deal? Do you want to always be very stable and centered throughout the entire year, regardless of whatever is going on around you? And if that's the case, then I'm going to share with you exactly how to do that. Because focusing on your weight and focusing on the food is clearly not the answer, because the issue is not about the food. When you have a disordered relationship with food, when you feel out of control around food, that's actually a nervous system problem. And there's this part of the nervous system that we kick in when we program our mind with these extreme emotions, where we start to feel worry and shame and doubt and anxiety around some of the things in our lives, such as food, such as weight loss, such as our health. Anytime we're feeling these extreme emotions, we trigger that part of the nervous system that's always going to seek out survival by getting us to eat more, by making us actually out of control around food, by giving us all these sugar cravings. And so when we first focus on the nervous system, what actually ends up happening is the cravings disappear. We no longer have that desire for the foods that we thought were irresistible. We don't have this need to constantly be obsessed around food, and food no longer has this hold on us the way it did in the past. In fact, we get our brain space back. We don't even have to spend as much time thinking about food or weight or body size anymore. We actually just get to be in the joy and the ease of life itself. And so normally when I start working with someone, this is something that can be achieved within a month. That's right, that fast, within a month, because rewiring the brain can happen that quickly. When you understand exactly what the pattern is and you allow yourself to shift to a new pattern, linking new beliefs and new emotions to new behaviors, you rewire the brain so that you're now very relaxed around food and you have a new sense of freedom around food. And now the fun begins, because now that we're free around food and we're super relaxed around food, we can get curious around what types of foods do I really enjoy? And then we can start to play with your diet. What kinds of foods fuel me up? What kinds of foods do I enjoy? Without anything being off limits, what kinds of food do I actually want to eat without having to follow somebody else's plan? Let me follow my own body's plan and find what's the most optimal for me. And we do this through a process that I call addition before subtraction. And this is really important because the mind never feels like it's being deprived of anything. There are no restrictions. So when we start to play around with our food, following the rule of addition before subtraction, before you know it, you found your formula. So you heal your gut. So you balance your hormones so that you're living your most relaxed life around food. And here's the best part. As a side effect of all that, the weight naturally releases itself. It's not even something you have to focus on. Because what would happen if you're no longer overeating? If you're no longer binge eating? If you're no longer nighttime snacking or emotionally eating? And you get to actually play around with the foods that you feel give you the most vitality. You restore your gut health, so your digestion improves and all the inflammation goes down. And now your body can actually start to oxidize body fat. And then you increase your metabolism by balancing your hormones. When your hormones are balanced, you speed up your metabolism. So you're able to just burn more energy at rest. And this all happens with ease around food without dieting, so that the thought of dieting or weighing yourself or having it matter what your size is no longer an issue. And this is really, really, really fun to observe because every single time I start working with someone, it's one of the hardest things to do in the beginning, to give up the scale, because the scale has always been almost our safety. It at least tells us where we're at. And if we know where we're at, then we can stay in control. But it's actually the inverse. Your first step is to stop weighing yourself and to really start to get relaxed around food and to shift your nervous system so that you feel ease around food and the craving stops. And then you can start to have fun with playing around with what works best for you. Now, this holiday season, I really want to give you the opportunity to just reflect on how you want 2025 to go down. And I want to offer you a free 30-minute coaching call with me to really create that clarity and that strategy around how to do that. This is just an opportunity for us to make a new plan around 2025. And again, completely free, absolutely no obligation, but a way for you to really determine how can I move into 2025 without the restrictions, without the fear around food, without having to force discipline, without having to white knuckle it, and actually be able to achieve my goals forever in a way that feels fun and exciting and completely relaxed. So if this feels like this is landing for you today, if you're tired of all the dieting, if you're tired of feeling like you're not enough just because of a couple of pounds you put on, or feel like your whole life will matter more if you release weight, then I would really love for you to take advantage of this. Now, you're going to find the link here in the comments. And if you can't find a spot on my calendar, just send me a DM or maybe even write me a little comment here in our little post, and I'll be happy to find a time with you that does work. And with that, I want to wish you a beautiful, peaceful holiday season and a start to 2025 that's on your terms, where you feel relaxed, where you feel at ease, and you're able to step into that highest version of yourself. You got this. Thank you for listening to this week's Make Peace with Food Minisode on the Fall in Love with Fitness podcast. If this has resonated with you today, I want to invite you to subscribe to the show so you never miss a beat. And if you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, then please share this episode with them. Let's work together to help as many people as possible make peace with food and fall in love with fitness. And by the way, I need to mention that if you rate and review this podcast on iTunes and send over the screenshot to Sherry at sherryshaban.com, you'll receive a $500 voucher to join me at one of my upcoming retreats or to use it in our Make Peace with Food coaching program. And don't forget to visit myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com to join the free Facebook group for more resources. And remember, athlete, you are an inspiration. I cannot wait to hear your story.